For a moment, I thought it was Tony. I'm sorry I interrupted you. What were we talking about?
I was just telling you that I murdered exactly 52 people since I saw you last.
Oh, yes. One a week. How did you do it?
Any way I could think of. I electrocuted some of their baths, locked others in the garage with the motor running, or pushed them through windows and over cliffs. Other weeks I chose to poison, shoot, strangle, stab, slug, suffocate.
Just according to how you felt?
Well, when you write for that kind of television, you don't have time to feel anything.
Where do you get your ideas from?
Oh, newspaper stories, police files, bad dreams, other writers.
You once told me you'd never write anything that wasn't original.
Now, you try being original 52 times a year.
Suppose you just dry up and can't think of anything.
Well, if it comes to that, I just use my 3 hats.
What do you mean?
Well, I've got 3 old hats marked who kills who, how, and why.
Which is what? I mean, what's why?
Why is the motive for killing? There has to be a motive, you know. There are only 5 important ones: fear, jealousy, money, revenge, and protecting someone you love. I just write them all down on pieces of paper and pick one out of the Y hat.
Sounds rather like sorting the week's washing.
Yeah, just about as artistic, but better paid. It's no worse than writing plays that aren't produced or novels that aren't published.
Let's have your glass, Max.
No, I'm all right, thanks.
You know, I could hardly believe it when I heard your voice on the telephone. At first, I thought you were phoning from New York.
Yes, I thought you were shouting a little louder than necessary. As a matter of fact, I was just around the corner. Was it all right, my phoning like that?
Yes, of course.
Was that Tony you answered?
Yes, it was. Oh, I do hope he isn't going to be too late. Poor darling, he always seems to get caught when we're going to the theater. So, you're not here on a holiday this time?
No, not this time. I came over to write some short TV films. After that, I thought I'd knock off for a year and write that novel. Got to write it sometime.
Another crime story?
I have to stick to crime. It's my stock in trade.
Max, before Tony comes, I ought to explain something.
Yes?
I haven't told him anything about us.
Oh?
When you rang up yesterday, I just said that you were a television writer I'd met when he was in America.
Well, that's true enough.
I said I'd run into you again before you went back to New York, and you promised to look us up if you ever came back.
I see.
Max, I know you think it's silly, but once you get to know Tony, you'll understand why.
Margot, I'd like to get one thing straight. Things are okay now between you and Tony?
Couldn't be better. And I want to keep them that way.
I'm very glad. At least I guess I will be when I get used to the idea.
There's something else, Max.
Yes?
Oh, I wasn't going to tell you.
Go on. Let's have it.
Well, you remember those letters you wrote me?
Of course.
Well, after I read them, I burnt them. I thought it best. All except one. You probably know the one I mean.
I can guess. She never read it.
Oh, I know, but I loved it just the same. I used to carry it around wherever I went. Then one day, Tony and I were going to spend the weekend in the country with some friends. We're standing on the platform when I noticed my handbag was missing. And the letter was in it.
I see. Where was this?
Victoria Station. I was sure I'd left it in the restaurant, but when I went back, it had gone.
You never found it?
I recovered the handbag about 2 weeks later, but the letter wasn't there. A week after, I received a note. It told me what I had to do to get the letter back.
Go on.
It said I was to withdraw £50 in £5 notes from the bank, then exchange them for used £1 notes. It said that if I told the police or anyone else, he would show the letter to my husband.
May I see it? Printed. All capital letters. Anyone could have done this.
Then 2 days later, I received this.
Both mailed from Brixton. Huh. Tie up money in a package and mail to John S. King, 23 Newport Street, Brixton, SW9. You will get your letter by return. Well, of all the...
It's a little shop. People use it as a forwarding address.
Did you mail the money?
Yes, but the letter was never returned. So after waiting about 2 weeks, I went there. They never heard of a man by that name, and the parcel was still there. It had never been opened.
Well, I suppose that's something. May I keep these?
Yes, if you'd like.
You didn't tell Tony?
I didn't tell anyone. I can't understand why the man didn't claim the money.
Yeah, he's probably in jail by that time. You never heard from him again?
No.
Well, you let me know if you do. I'll find him and fix him so he can't read, much less write. Is this why you asked me to stop writing?
Yes, I was in an awful panic. I imagined that every letter you wrote me would be opened and read by someone.
Why didn't you tell me?
Oh, what could you have done? You probably would have made me tell Tony or the police. As it was only 50 pounds, I figured I'd pay up and have done with it.
Margaret, are you ever going to tell Tony about us?
No, never.
Why not? Don't you think we all get on...
Max, I know Tony, you don't.
You don't have to tell me. Just the idea of meeting that makes me, shall we say, uncomfortable.
Oh, you'll get on fine. Tony's changed a lot this last year. Now he's a model husband. In fact, it was just a year ago that it happened.
What happened?
He suddenly grew up. He changed from a rather selfish little boy into a relatively reasonable adult. You remember the night I came to say goodbye?
How could I forget? Tony had just gone off to play in a tennis tournament.
Oh, he did, but he came back. I'm not much good at writing about things like this, so I didn't even try. But after I left you, I came back here, sat down on the couch, and had a good cry. Then I fell asleep. When I woke up, Tony was standing in the hallway with all of his bags and tennis rackets and things, and he announced he decided to give up tennis for good and settle down.
Just like that.
Just like that. Oh, I didn't believe him at first, of course. I'd gotten so used to tagging along after him, I could see no end to it. But he meant it all right. He went out the very next day and got himself a job. What were we doing? Exactly a year ago?
I was putting the mushrooms in the spaghetti. I almost turned around and said, I can't go through with this. Let's find Tony and have it out with him.
No, I felt the same way. But all I could do was sit there quite uselessly with the drip on the end of my nose. What did you do after I'd gone?
I walked along the Chelsea bank, looked at the Chelsea Gasworks.
Were you thinking about the gasworks or me?
Neither. I was writing a story. I always do when I'm miserable.
A sad story?
A triumphant one. My hero was an eminent writer coming from America with his pockets full of money, going to snatch his lady love from the arms of a jealous husband.
Only to find that husband and wife are quite happy, thank you.
And that he was very glad to know it.
Max, let's drink to the way things turn out.
Right things turn out.
Oh, there you are. We thought you were never coming. What have you been up to?
Sorry, darling. And the boss blew in just as I was leaving.
Oh, Tony, this is Max Halliday.
Oh, hello, Max.
Tony.
I am terribly sorry to be so late. Has Margot been looking after you all right? How's your drink?
We've been drinking ourselves silly waiting for you.
So, Max, how do you like it over here so far?
Fine.
Is this your first visit to London?
No, I was here a year ago for a vacation.
Oh, yes, that's right. Margot told me. You write for television, don't you, poor fellow? Are you staying long?
Well, I don't know. I have some writing to do. When that's finished, I thought I'd stay a while longer and do some traveling.
That's a splendid idea. But don't waste all your time to museums, cathedrals. You've seen one, you've seen a lot, if you ask me. Do you fish?
No, I'm afraid I don't.
Oh, pity. If you did, I'd suggest you go to Scotland for some of the best
He
fishing.
doesn't fish, darling.
No, he doesn't. Well, that I suppose. Well, Max, if you ever want showing around, just ask us. Darling, we could take Max here to the Tower of London.
Afraid I've already been there.
Oh, what a shame. And I've always wanted to see you in the Tower, Max. But seriously, if there's anything I can do for you, or if there's anything you want at all, don't hesitate to ask me.
Thank you, Tony. I'll remember that.
Darling, it's getting late. Did you reserve the table?
Yes, 7 o'clock.
Come on, then. Get your coats.
Oh, darling, slight alteration in plans.
Now, don't say you can't go.
I'm afraid not. Domaine Burgess is flying to Brussels on Sunday. I have to have the monthly report in tomorrow morning.
Can't you do it when we get back?
I'm afraid not. It's going to take hours. I'm going to have to fake half of it.
Well, what about afterwards? We might go somewhere.
Tell you what, give me a ring in the intermission. If I get inspired, I might join you.
Oh, do try. I'll get my coat, Max.
Here are the tickets, Max.
Thanks.
I'm afraid this is extremely rude of me.
Not at all. I'm sorry you can't come, though.
You must come to dinner one night, though.
Thank you. I'd like to.
I say, are you doing anything tomorrow night?
Saturday? I don't think so.
That's perfect. I'd like to come to a stag party just down the road.
Stag party?
Yes. Some American chaps were playing tennis all over the continent. We're giving them sort of a farewell dinner.
I'm not a tennis player.
Oh, that doesn't matter. You know, New York and all that. Darling, good news. Max is coming to the party tomorrow night.
Oh, good. Stop by here first and have a drink.
Hey, that's the idea.
Oh, darling, aren't you dressing?
Yeah, dinner jackets, yes. That is all right, of course.
Well, no, my truck was supposed to arrive today, but it hasn't.
Oh, I see. You can rent one.
Oh, darling, don't be silly. It isn't that important.
Oh, wait a second. I've got an idea.
Now, we are going to be late.
Shall I try and get a taxi?
Oh, no, we can usually pick one up. Tony, we must be going.
Just a second, darling. Yeah, try this on, Max.
What on earth is that?
It's simply my old one, but it might work.
Well, look, if dressing is as important as all that, let's forget it, shall we?
Oh, nonsense.
That old thing? That brings some mothballs.
Well, they say writers would do anything for a square meal.
It does look a little meager, doesn't it?
I will not let you send Max out looking like a scarecrow. Surely he can go as he is.
Well, anyway, my stuff is supposed to arrive by tomorrow. Let's hope that it does.
Come on, Max, let's get going before he tries the pants on.
Enjoy yourselves. Oh, hey, say, Max.
Yeah.
Try and sell the odd ticket. Have a drink on the proceeds. Bye. May I speak with Captain Lunsgate, please?
Speaking.
Oh, good evening. You don't know me. My name is Pfister. I understand you have a car for sale.
An American car.
Hey, yes, that's right. I saw it at your garage. How much are you asking?
1100.
1100. I'd say it certainly seems just a job for me, but I don't like the price much.
I didn't like it when I bought it.
Now, when can we meet?
How about tomorrow afternoon?
Tomorrow afternoon? Oh, I don't think I can manage that. No, I can't, and I'm leaving for Liverpool on Sunday. I was rather hoping. I say, I don't suppose you can manage to come around to my home this evening.
Where is it?
Manor Vale. I'd call on you only I've twisted my knee rather badly.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's your address?
61A Charrington Gardens.
Harrington?
No, Charrington.
Sherrington Gardens.
Yes, turn right at the underground. It's about a 2-minute walk.
I'll be there in about an hour.
About an hour? That's extremely good of you. By the way, will you be bringing the car with you?
I'm afraid I can't because...
That's quite all right. I've already had a good look at it anyway. Perhaps you might bring about the registration book and the other necessary papers.
Of course.
As a matter of fact, I don't see why we can't sell the whole thing here now, provided you drop the price sufficiently, of course.
I'm afraid it's quite out of the question.
We'll see what a couple of drinks can do. Oh, well, good night.
Good night.
Captain Lesgate.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes, Captain Lesgate.
Yes.
Do come in. This is extremely good of you. Have any difficulty finding your way?
None at all.
Oh, let me have your coat. No, just sit down.
Thank you.
And now, how about that drink?
You know, I can't help feeling I've seen you somewhere before.
Funny, you should say that. The moment I open the door, Oh, wait a second. Lesgate? You're not Lesgate at all. You're a Swan. A C.J. Swan, or was it C.A.?
CA. Better memory than I have. Fisher, when did we meet?
Didn't you go to Cambridge?
Yes.
Oh, you wouldn't remember me. It must be 10 years since I was there last. I only came your senior year.
You're not Fisher, you're Wendis. Tony Wendis. Well, what a coincidence.
Yes, this was very special to me. I was planning upon the office in a different port, but let's see what we have here. Well, how about this?
Perfect. By the way, how did you find out my car was for sale?
Oh, your garage told me.
That's odd. I don't remember telling anyone there.
Oh, I stopped in the other day for Philip and told him I was in the market for an American car. They showed me yours and I rather liked it, so they gave me your number. By the way, what are you doing these days?
I deal in property. I don't follow tennis very closely. Did you play at Wimbledon this year?
Oh, no, I'd given up tennis, or rather tennis gave me up. One has to start earning a living sometime, I suppose. I had a pretty good run for my money. I went around the world 3 times.
And they treated you like a film star.
Film stars get paid.
And there is that.
Of course, I did manage to save a bit on expenses. In 7 years, I was managed to put away about £1,000. Not much when compared with the film stars.
So, what are you doing now? Making up for lost time?
No, I sell sports equipment. Not very lucrative, but it gives me plenty of spare time.
Well, I'm here to tell you you run a very comfortable place.
My wife has some money of her own. Otherwise, I should hardly feel like blowing £1,000 on your car.
1,100. Yes, people with capital rarely realize how lucky they are. I've already resigned myself to living on what I can earn.
Of course, you can still marry for money.
Yes, I suppose our son might make a business of that.
Yes, I know. I did.
You mean the girl you fell in love with happened to have some money of her own?
Oh, no. I always planned to marry for money. I had to. While I was in first-class tennis, I met wealthy people all over the world. I was somebody, and while my win lasted. I decided then and there to snap up the first chance I got. I nearly made a Bobby Boston debt with $5 million. God's father's pictures in the paper, and she threw me over for an ad to a chain of grocery stores. Funny how they stick together. I settled for a good deal less, a lot more easily. My wife had been a friend of mine for some time.
Well, that's putting it rather bluntly.
Have I shocked you?
No, I admire a man who knows what he wants.
And know what you want to pay for, that's the thing. Everything has its price, Captain Lesgate. The problem with most people is that they want to buy cheap. I've learned to pay a big price for everything I really want, and I usually get it.
Yes, I'm sure you do.
I haven't a great deal
I was
of time.
telling you about my wife. She got her money from her late aunt, who got it from her late husband, who got it from his first wife. Of course, a large chunk does get lopped off every time someone dies, but quite a bit has managed to filter through.
You say you married for money. Why do you think she married you?
I was a tennis star. She never would have married a commercial salesman.
Yes, but you're not playing tennis now. She hasn't left you.
She nearly did.
Here, let me win this. You've got a groggy knee.
Oh, thanks, old boy. Let's have that bottle over here, shall we?
All right.
Would you like to hear about it?
What?
About my wife, how she nearly left me.
It's your privilege. You're the host.
To be quite frank, I think you might be able to help. Just man-to-man advice, you know.
I am at your service.
Well, after we're married, I played in various tournaments and Margot tagged along. I think she found it all a bit much. Hospitality outside this country can be pretty exhausting. So, when we returned, she tried to persuade me to give up tennis and play husband instead. In the end, we compromised. I went alone to America for the grass court season and returned after the national championships. When I returned, I found out a lot had happened while I was away. For one thing, she wasn't in love with me anymore. There were long phone calls that would end abruptly if I happened to walk in, and there was this old school friend of hers she used to visit from time to time. One day we had a row. I wanted to play in a covered court tournament as usual. She didn't want me to play. I was in the bedroom when the phone rang. She came out to answer. All sounded pretty urgent to me. When she came back, she was suddenly very keen on the idea that I should play in that tournament after all. So I packed my kit in the car and I drove on. 10 minutes later, I walked back on my tracks after parking the car 2 streets away. She came out of this house. 10 minutes later, took a taxi and I took another. The old cool friend lived in a studio in Chelsea. I could see them through the studio window while he was cooking spaghetti over a gas ring. They didn't say much. They just looked very natural together. Funny how you can tell when people are in love. I started to walk. I began to wonder what would happen if she actually left me. I have to find some way of earning a living to begin with. I suddenly realized exactly how much I'd grown to depend upon her. All these expensive tastes I'd acquired while I was at the top, and now big tennis had finished me, and so apparently I had no wife. There goes. I can't remember ever being so scared before. I went to the local pub and I had a few drinks. I thought of all sorts of things. I thought of 3 different ways of killing him. I even thought of killing her. That seemed a far more sensible idea. And then I saw something that completely changed my mind. Well, I didn't play in that tournament after all. I saw something that changed my mind, and I came back here. She was sitting right there. I told her I decided to give up tennis and look after her instead. Well, as things turned out, I needn't gotten so worked up after all. Apparently that spaghetti dinner was sort of a fond farewell. The boyfriend was called back to New York.
Ah, an American.
Yes, an American. There are long letters from there. They usually arrived on Thursdays. She burned all of them except one. That one she transferred from handbag to handbag. It was with her always. I had to find out what was in that letter. And, one day I did.
You mean you stole it?
Yes. I even wrote 2 anonymous notes offering to sell it back.
Why?
Well, I was hoping that would make her tell me about him. But it didn't, so I kept the letter.
Why are you telling me all this?
Because you're the only person I can trust. Anyways, I must have put the fear of God in them because the letters stopped coming and we all lived happily ever after. Funny to think that a year ago I was actually sitting in Knightsbridge pub planning to murder her. I would have done it too if I hadn't seen something that completely changed my mind.
Well, what did you see?
I saw you.
What's so odd about that?
The coincidence. You see, only a week before I'd been to your reunion dinner. All the fellows were talking all about you, how you'd been in prison during the war. Court-martial, I understand. Mind you, that was news. We always said old Swan would one day end up in jail. Probably something to do with that stolen cash money at college.
What about it?
Oh, my dear fellow, everyone knew you took it.
Yes, well, thanks for the drink. Interesting hearing about your matrimonial affairs. I take it you won't be wanting the car after all.
Don't you want me to tell you why I asked you here?
Yes, I think you'd better.
Well, you see, it was after I saw you in that pub, everything became quite clear. You see, only a few months before Margaret and I made out our wills. Quite short affairs, really, just leaving everything we had to one another in case of accidents. Hers worked out to £90,000, of investments mostly, and all too easy to get at. That'd be dangerous. You'd be bound to suspect me. I needed an alibi, and a very good one. That's when I saw you. I often wondered what happened to people when they came out of prison. People like you, I mean. Can they get jobs? Do old friends rally round? What if they never had any friends? I became so curious that I followed you that night. I followed you and... Oh, I'd say, old boy, mind handing me your glass? And I've been following you ever since.
Why?
Well, I was hoping that sooner or later I might catch you at something, be able to...
Blackmail me.
Influence you. I got to know your routine rather well, and that made it all the more easier.
Rather dull work, isn't it?
Yes, but you know how it is. You take up a hobby, and the more you get to know about it, the more fascinating it becomes. I used to go dog racing twice a week, I believe. Mondays and Thursdays. I even took it myself just to be near you. You changed your name to Adams.
Yes, I got bored with Swan. Any crime in that?
Not at all. You also used to go to a private little club down in Soho. An odd name, the Kettle of Fish. The police closed it down recently, I believe. Someone was caught taking drugs or something.
I went there to eat. No crime in that either. Is there?
Oh, not at all. As a matter of fact, it wasn't anything really illegal about you, Captain Lesgate. I became quite discouraged. And then one day you disappeared from your lodgings. I called your landlady and said, Mr. Adams owes me £5. Well, apparently that was nothing. Mr. Adams owed her 6 weeks' rent. And Mr. Adams owed her best lodger £55. And Mr. Adams has been such a nice gentleman. That's what seemed to upset her the most.
Yes, that's always what upsets them most.
I say, old boy, if you're going to have another drink, would you mind putting on these gloves? Thank you. Now, where were we? Oh, yes, I lost you. I found you again at the dog racing track. I found you to your new lodgings in Belsigs Park. And there Mr. Adams became Mr. Wilson. And Mr. Wilson left Belsigs Park last July owing 15 weeks' rent, and all the more richer for a brief encounter with Miss Wallace. You used to take her out on Sundays and Wednesdays. She certainly was in love with you, wasn't she, Captain Lesgate? I assume she thought you were growing that handsome beard of yours just to please her. Poor Miss Wallace.
This is most interesting. Do go on.
July, August, September, apartment 127 Carlisle Court, occupant Mrs. Van Dorn. Her late husband left her 2 hotels and a large apartment building, totally furnished. And what a base to operate from, Captain Lesgate. The only problem that she really enjoys being courted and is oh so very expensive. Perhaps that's why you've been trying to sell her car for nearly a month now.
Mrs. Van Dorn asked me to sell her car for her.
Yes, I know. I called her just before you arrived. She only wants £800.
Where's the nearest police station?
It's across from the church, about 2 minutes walk.
Suppose I go there now.
What would you tell them?
Everything.
Everything about Mr. Adams and Mr. Wilson?
I shall simply tell them that you are trying to blackmail me into murdering your wife.
Oh, I almost wish you would go. It would be quite an amusing diversion. But before you do, please reconsider. This letter has your fingerprints on it. And what would you do? You go to the police, tell some crazy story about me wanting to hire you to murder my wife? Oh, please. And also consider the inconvenience. You see, I'm quite well known, and this would not go without any form of notoriety. And what about Mrs. Van Dorn? Does she know about Mr. Adams and Mr. Wilson? You were planning to marry Mrs. Van Dorn, weren't you?
Smart, aren't you?
No. I just had a chance to think things over. That's why I know you're going to agree.
What makes you think I'll agree?
For the same reason that a donkey with a carriage in front and a stick behind will go forward and not backwards.
Tell me about the carrot.
£1,000 in cash.
For a murder.
For a few minutes' work, that's all it is. And there's no risk to you, I guarantee it. That should appeal to you. I've been skating on very thin ice lately.
I don't know what you're talking
You
about.
should know what I'm talking about. It's in all the papers. Something about a middle-aged woman found dead in an apartment due to an overdose of cocaine. Apparently she'd been taking the stuff for quite some time. No one seems to know where she'd been getting it from, but we know. Don't we, Captain Lesgate? Poor Miss Wallace. Yes, she should take a long holiday abroad. Surely a honeymoon with Mrs. Van Dorn would be preferable to 10 years detention at Dartmoor prison. You find my £1,000, she'd see you safely married to her. It makes such a difference to have cash in the family.
It's £1,000. Where is it?
It's in a attaché case in a lockbox.
Where?
Somewhere in London. Of course, we never meet again. After you delivered the goods, I shall mail you the key to the case and the ticket to the lockbox. You may take this £100 on account.
The police would only have to trace one of those notes back to you, and they'll hang us both from the same rope.
Oh, they won't. For an entire year now, I've been cashing actually £20 a month, always in fivers. I turn for those ones there at my leisure.
Let's see your bank statement.
Of course. Right, don't touch.
Your account has dropped by over £1,000 in the year. The police will ask you about that.
I go dog racing twice a week.
They'll check with your bookmaker.
Like you, I bet on the tote. Satisfied?
When would this take place?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow, not a chance. I've got to think things over.
It's got to be tomorrow night. I've already arranged things that way.
Where?
Approximately where you're standing right now.
How?
Tomorrow night, Halliday, that's American boyfriend, and I will be going to a stag party just down the road. She won't go, she'll stay here. She'll go to bed early, watch Saturday night theater on television. She always does when she's alone. At 23 minutes to 11, you'll enter this apartment building from the front door. You find the key to this apartment under the stair carpet right here.
The 5th step.
Yes, that's right. Come in here, shut the door, and hide behind these curtains over here at the window. At exactly 20 minutes to 11, I'll get up from the party, and I'll go use a hotel phone. I'll dial the number for my boss, but I'll dial the wrong number, this number. When the phone rings, she'll hear it. The light will go on beneath the door, and she opens the door, light streaming across the room, so you mustn't make a move till she answers the phone. After you've completed your deed, simply go over to the phone and pick it up and give a soft whistle. Then hang up. Don't speak to me, I shan't say a word. After I've heard your whistle, I shall simply pick it up and talk to my boss after dialing the correct number and return to the party as though nothing had happened.
What happens next?
Go on.
You'll find a suitcase over here. It'll contain some clothes of mine for the cleaners. Simply open it up, pick the contents on the floor, then put some of these smaller trophies, a candlestick, a silver cigarette box, and then close the lid, but don't snap the locks.
As if I'd left in a hurry.
That's the idea. And now the windows. If they're locked, unlock them, then leave them open. Then go out exactly the same way you came in.
By that door.
And then, most important, be absolutely sure you put that key back where you found
Under
it.
the stair carpet.
Yes.
Exactly what is supposed to have happened.
They'll soon be broken through these windows over here. Thought no one was at home, so he took that case and started to go to work. My wife, she heard a noise, so she turned on the light. Saw the light and hid behind the curtains. When she came over, you attacked her before she had a chance to say a word. When you realized you killed her, you simply, you pulled out through the garden, leaving your loot behind.
All right. I'm supposed to come in through the garden. What if the doors have been locked?
And that doesn't matter. She often goes out at night for a breath of fresh air, and she forgets to lock up afterwards. That's what I'll tell the police.
Yes, but she may say
She
that...
isn't going to say anything, is she, Captain Linsgate?
Is there any reason why I shouldn't leave by the garden?
Yes, there's a gate at the other end. It might be locked. If it's locked, you'd have to climb it. You might be seen, you'd be followed.
All right. Go out through that door, leave the key under the stair carpet, and go up by the street door. What if the street door is locked? How do I get in the first
The
place?
street door is always unlocked.
When will you be back?
Oh, sometime after midnight. Howard and I'll come back here for a nightcap, and we'll find her there together. And since we've been together all night long, he will be my alibi.
You've forgotten something.
What?
When you and, what's his name? Halliday come back, how will you get in?
I shall let us in, of course.
Yes, but your key will be under the stair carpet. He'll see you take it out. You'll give the whole show away.
No, it won't be my candy. They'll be hers. Since she won't be going out that night, she shan't miss it. Before I leave the flat, I'll take it from her purse and place it under the carpet. And when we arrive and Halliday's out doing whatever it is he does, I'll remove it from his hiding place and put it back in her purse before the police arrive.
How many keys are there to that door?
No, just two, hers and mine. Hello?
Tony, it's me.
Oh, hello, darling. How's it going?
Wonderfully. It's really a dreadful thing, and we're enjoying it every minute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm glad.
How are you?
Oh, very tired. I've just bought a pot of coffee and try and stay awake. Hold it, darling. I think it's someone at the door. Don't go out there. You might be seen through the window. Sorry, darling. False alarm.
You will join us, won't you?
Oh, I'm afraid not. I hardly seem to have gotten started.
Oh, Tony, it never does work out, does it?
We'll rage it one day.
It seems awfully mean, but would you mind if Beth and I went somewhere? You see,
What do you like to do? Go dancing?
well,
Taking the Jerry's.
oh, we did it?
Just mention my name. I don't know about the music, but the food's pretty good.
Well, darling, that's the curtain. I must fly.
All right, darling. Enjoy yourself. Well, And after that, he lost concentration, couldn't win another game.
Darling, where's the picture of the Maharaja?
Oh, somewhere among those loose ones. Darling, when are you ever going to finish pasting in those press clippings?
Oh, I shall find time one of these days. Here's the picture of the Maharaja. Isn't he dreamy?
Yes, he had 4 Rolls Royces, enough to use a single battleship. All he really wanted to do though was play at Wimbledon.
He was so short-sighted he could hardly see the end of his racket, let alone the ball.
You ought to write a book about this.
I've got it. Why don't you two collaborate? A detective novel with a tennis background.
We better get going, Max.
All right, sir.
Max, are you doing anything tomorrow?
No, I don't think so.
Why don't we all drive down to Windsor for lunch?
And that's a good idea. But come along early. Not too early, maybe nursing a hangover.
About 11.
And I'll do fine. By the way, darling, have you seen my latch key? I can't seem to find it anywhere.
Oh, I may have them both in my handbag. I'll just check.
Oh, it's starting to rain pretty hard. I could loan you an old raincoat if that'll do any good.
This'll do. It isn't fire, is it?
Oh, no, it's just around the corner.
I've only one here. Are you sure yours isn't in your overcoat?
Yes, I've already looked there. Could loan me yours.
Oh, that's rather awkward.
Why?
I may want to go out.
Tonight?
Yes, I thought I might go to a movie.
But aren't you going to stay and watch television? No, Saturday Night Theater's on tonight.
Oh, no, it's a thriller. I don't like thrillers when I'm alone.
Oh, I see.
Well, I'll be home before you, so I could let you in.
Well, we probably won't be back till after midnight, and you may be asleep by then.
You can always leave your key under the proverbial mat.
Oh, look, I had it in my pocket all the time.
That settles that.
By the way, what movie are you going to see?
Oh, I'll go to the classic, I expect.
But will you get in after all? It's Saturday night.
I can always try. Now, don't make me stay home. You know how I hate doing nothing.
Nothing, but there's hundreds of things for you to do. For instance, did you write to Peggy about last weekend? And what about these press clippings? It's the ideal opportunity.
Well, I like that. You two go out gallivanting, and I have to stay home and do those boring clippings.
All right, we won't go.
What?
Well, it's obvious you don't want us to go out tonight, so we won't. We'll stay here with you.
Now, Tony.
What do we do, Max? Play cards?
Now, Tony, don't let's be childish about this.
I suppose I better phone the Grennan Hotel. Tell them we're not going to be showing up.
All right, I'll do your old clippings.
Hey, you don't have to if you don't want to.
But I do want to. Have we any paste?
There's some on the desk, I think.
Oh, and the scissors. They're in the sewing box.
All right.
Oh, the paste bottle's empty. It would. Oh, I can always borrow some from Mrs. Lucas. She's bound to have some.
Now, who's she?
Oh, Mrs. Lucas just lives down the road. Thank you, darling.
Why not make some? All you need is some flour and starch.
That's a good idea. Do you know how to do it, Max?
2 shapes.
Oh, good old Max. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, darling. Was I so unreasonable?
Oh, no, I don't mind. But I'll tell you what. I'll paste in your clippings if you put up the extra shelf in the kitchen, as you promised.
First thing tomorrow, I promise.
I'll go help Max.
All right.
Oh, it looks like Vichy Soir without the chives.
If it starts to get thick, just add a little water, but keep stirring.
Keep the fire in for us, sweetheart.
I will.
And it just may happen though that Burgess will phone tonight. If he does, tell him at the Grennan Hotel. It may be rather important.
Oh, what's the number?
It's in the book on the desk.
Well, take care of each other.
We will. Good night, Margot.
Good night, Max. Oh, Tony, you'll drop Max off in the car afterwards, won't you?
Certainly. We'll stop later for some nightcaps. Are you sure you won't be up?
I shall be fast asleep, and I don't want to be disturbed.
All right, then we'll be as quiet as mice. Let's go, Max.
Ah.
all right, it's all right. What happened?
He got something round my neck. I think it was a stocking.
Are you sure, Letitia? I better call a doctor.
But he's dead.
Yes, I know. When he fell, he must have driven the scissors through his back.
It's horrible. Can't you do something?
Yes, of course. What are you doing?
Could you give me some water, please?
Yes. That's better.
Close the window, please.
No, we mustn't touch anything till the police arrive. He must have broken in. I wonder what he was after. Probably some of the trophies, I expect.
When will the police get here?
Have you called them already?
Well, no, how could I? Hadn't you better call them now?
Yes, of course, in a minute.
I'll get dressed.
Why?
Well, they'll want to see me.
They're not going to see you.
They'll have to question me.
And they can wait until tomorrow to speak with you. I'll tell them all they need to know. My darling, please, go to bed.
Tony, why did you phone me?
What? I'm sorry, darling. I'll tell you more about it later. I just thought of something. You mentioned something about a stocking?
A stocking or a scarf? Isn't it there?
No, but I expect they'll find it when they get here. Now, darling, please, go to bed.
Tony, where's Max?
I told him to go straight home.
Did you tell him what happened?
I didn't know what was going on myself, so I just said I wasn't feeling well. Now, darling, please, go to bed. Hello, police. I'd like to report there's been a dreadful accident.
Yes, sir?
A man's been killed.
Your name, sir?
Wendis.
D-I-double-S.
No, D-I-C-E.
Your address, sir?
618 Sherrington Gardens. This is a ground floor apartment.
When was this accident?
It's about 10 minutes ago. Man, he broke in, he attacked my wife.
That?
I expect so. Look, I'll tell you more about it when you get here. How soon can that be?
About 2 minutes.
All right, 2 minutes.
Sir?
Yes?
Don't touch anything, will you?
No, I won't touch a thing.
Tony!
I'll be with you in a moment, darling. No, thank you.
We'd better call Max and tell him.
Oh, I already have. He's on his way over right now.
Tell
By
you
the way,
what-
I'm sorry.
No, go on.
It's just that I've closed the shutters in the bedroom, that's all.
Why?
Well, people have started going out for the Sunday paper. We now have a collection of refined snoopers.
Is it in the papers already?
No, not yet. I don't think so, but you know how it goes. News does travel fast. What were you going to say?
Oh, I don't remember. It's gone for the moment.
I'll get that. Yes?
Good morning, sir. Mrs. Wenders, please.
I'm Mr. Wenders.
Oh, good morning, sir. Well, I work the CNS News Service, and I was wondering if I might speak with Mrs. Wenders.
I'm afraid my wife can't see anyone just now, not for a day or two.
Oh, was she got
No, she's all right now.
I see. Well, can I take the
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm afraid not.
Who was that?
Just a reporter wanting to take photographs of you.
Suppose we should get a lot of that.
Not for long. After the inquest is over, they'll forget about it, so will you.
When will it be?
The inquest tomorrow, Tuesday, I should think.
What will happen?
And nothing to worry about. The coroner will probably congratulate you for putting up such a good show.
For killing a man?
Now, don't start getting ideas like that. Look, it was either you or him. As a police surgeon said, it was very lucky the scissors were on the desk last night.
Why were the police so long last night?
Were they really? I'm afraid I didn't notice. I went to sleep rather quickly.
I know you did. There were cars coming and going all night long.
I only met the police sergeant. A rather nice chap. He seemed to have it all under control.
At one point I thought they were turning all the furniture around.
Have they? Well, they don't seem to make too much of a mess of things. Oh, they even went and took our waste paper basket. That was thoughtful of them.
And someone kept flashing a light under the bedroom door.
Taking photographs, probably.
Finally, at about 2 o'clock, I couldn't stand it any longer. I got up and came in here
You came in here. What for?
to ask them when they thought they'd be done. But when I came in, I couldn't even say anything. There were 2 men on the floor with the measuring tape. One was outside and kept opening and shutting the window. I came in, they all stopped what they were doing and looked at me. I felt such a fool. And on the desk were a pair of shoes. His, I suppose. Oh, it was horrible.
Darling, before I forget, the police sergeant wants to know why you didn't phone the police immediately.
But how could I? You were on the line.
Yes,
You
darling,
distinctly told me not to speak to anyone.
I know, but I told him a slightly different story.
Why?
I told him that you didn't phone the police immediately because you naturally assumed that I would be phoning from the hotel.
Why did you say that?
Well, it's a perfectly logical explanation, and he accepted it. You see, if they got in their minds that we had postponed reporting this, even for a few minutes, so I can know that he's snooping
And you
around.
want me to say the same thing?
Yes. I suppose so, just in case it comes up again. Oh, that must be Max. Let him in, will you, darling? I'll get rid of these.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning.
Mrs. Wenders,
Yes?
I'm a police officer. May I come in?
Yes, yes, of course.
Thank you.
I'll just tell my husband that you're here.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning, sir. I'm Chief Inspector Hubbard. I'm in charge of the criminal investigation of this division.
I believe I gave you, Sergeant, all the necessary information.
Yes, I've seen his report, of course. But there are a few things I'd like to get down firsthand. I gather my sergeant only saw you for a few moments, Mrs. Wendis. Mrs. Wendis?
Oh, yes?
I'm afraid my wife was suffering from considerable shock.
Yes, that was a very nasty experience you had. Mind if I take a look around?
Oh, go ahead. The bedroom and bathroom are this way.
Well, he certainly didn't get in by the bathroom.
No, and the kitchen has bars on its window. Police had me broken through these windows over here.
I understand that you weren't here when this happened, sir.
No, I was at the Gredden Hotel.
Just down the road.
Yes. By curious coincidence, I was actually phoning my wife when she was being attacked.
So I gather. Did you happen to notice exactly what time that was, sir?
I'm not sure.
Did you notice, Mrs. Wendis?
No, I'm sorry I didn't.
You phoned the police at exactly 3 minutes to 11, sir.
Oh, in that case, it must have been somewhere around quarter till. By the way, please sit down, Inspector.
Thank you.
Have you any idea who he was?
Yes. At least we've discovered where he lived. There still seems to be some confusion as to his real name.
Oh?
He appeared to have several. Had you ever seen him before?
No, never. Oh, is this him?
Yes. You don't recognize him?
No.
Didn't you even catch a glimpse of his face?
No, you see, he attacked me from behind and it was dark. I hardly saw him at all.
But before I showed you these photographs, you said you'd never seen him. How could you know that, if you never saw his face last night?
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Inspector, what my wife simply means is, as far as she remembers, she's never met that man before.
Is that what you meant?
Yes, I'm sorry.
How about you, sir? Ever seen him before?
Let me see. Oh, no. No.
Yes.
He's very much like someone I was at college with. That beard makes quite a difference.
What was his name?
Now you're asking. 10 years since I was there last.
Was it Lesgett?
No.
Wilson?
No.
Swan?
No. Swan? Let me think. Swan. Yes, it was. I remember now. Look, here's a picture of an old reunion dinner. We're at the same college, of course. There he is. Look, it's unbelievable.
Did you know him well?
No, he was a senior to me.
Have you met him since then?
No. Well, come to think of it, I did see him rather recently, but not to speak to.
When was that, sir?
About 6 months ago at Waterloo Station. I remember noticing how little he changed.
Had he a beard and mustache then?
No.
Mrs. Wendis, would you please show me exactly what happened last night?
Tony, do I have to?
I'm afraid so, darling.
I was in bed when the telephone rang. I got up and I came in here.
Did you switch this light on?
No.
Just show me exactly where you were standing when it happened.
I stood here and picked up the telephone.
Are you sure you had your back to the windows like that?
Yes.
But why?
Why not?
Why go around the desk? I should have picked it up from this side.
Inspector, surely my wife can
Just a moment, sir.
I always answer the telephone from here.
Why?
Well, so that if I have to take a message, I can hold the phone in my left hand.
I see. All right, go on.
Well, then he must have come from behind the curtains and attacked me. He got something round my neck.
Something. What do you mean by something?
I think it was a stocking.
I see. What happened next?
Well, then he pushed me down on the desk. I remember distinctly feeling for the scissors.
Where were those scissors usually kept?
In the sewing box. I'd forgotten to put them away.
Now, what makes you think he came from behind those curtains?
Where else could he have come from?
The curtains were drawn, I suppose.
I drew them, Inspector, before I went out.
Had you locked the windows at the same time, sir?
Yes.
Are you quite sure about that?
Perfectly sure. I always lock them before I shut the curtains.
Then how do you suppose he got into this room?
We assume he broke in?
There's no sign of a break-in. The lock's quite undamaged.
But he must have done when I returned. The windows were wide open, at least. Darling, are you sure you didn't go out last night for a breath of fresh air and leave the windows open?
I did go out, but after I was attacked, I needed some air. I just pushed the windows open and walked out on the terrace.
Did you call for help?
No, I've just spoken to my husband on the telephone.
You said that you pushed the windows open. Are you quite sure you didn't unlock them first?
Yes, quite sure.
Were they already open?
Oh, I don't remember.
Mrs. Wendis, why didn't you phone the police immediately this happened?
I was trying to get through to the police when I discovered my husband on the line. I naturally assumed that he would phone the police from the hotel before he came here.
Didn't it occur to you to call for a doctor?
No,
Why ever not?
he was dead.
How did you know that?
It was obvious.
Did you feel his pulse?
No, I didn't feel his pulse. Anyone could have seen he was dead. One look at those staring eyes.
So you did see his face last night?
I saw his eyes.
Inspector, it's quite obvious my wife never saw that man before. And if he didn't break in through the store, that window, how did he get in?
As a matter of fact, we're quite certain he came in by that door.
But it was locked.
Darling, are you sure that You didn't go out last night after I had left and left the door open?
I'm sure.
How many keys are there to that door?
Only 2. You had yours with you and mine was in my handbag.
Yes, that's right.
Has the caretaker got a key?
No.
Do you employ a housekeeper?
Well, yes, but she hasn't got one either. I'm always here when she comes.
Inspector, what makes you think he came in this way?
His shoes.
His shoes.
The ground was soaking wet last night. If he'd come in by the garden, he'd have left marks all over the carpet. He didn't leave any because he wiped his shoes on the front door mat.
How can you tell?
It's a fairly new mat, and some of its fibers came off on his shoes.
Yes, but surely...
And there's a small tar stain on the mat, and some of the fibers show that as well. There's no question about it.
Wait a second. I think I've got it. Darling, remember when your bag was stolen?
Yes.
Was there a latchkey inside?
Well, yes, but it was still there when it was returned.
Just a moment, I'd like to hear about this. What sort of bag?
A handbag, Inspector. My wife, she lost it at Victoria Station.
I recovered it about 2 weeks later from the lost and found.
Was anything missing?
All the money had gone.
Anything else?
No,
No papers or letters?
no,
Are you quite sure about that?
yes.
Whoever had stolen the money could have had the key copy.
And your latchkey was inside your handbag when you lost it.
Yes, but it was still there when it was returned.
Where was the bag found eventually?
Victoria Station.
Yes, but not until several weeks later, and whoever had the key duplicated could have put the original back into the bag.
Before we go any further with this, how could he have gotten into the street door?
Oh, the street door's always unlocked.
I see. Well, he could have had your key copied. And he could have used it to open that door. But of course he didn't.
Why not?
Because if he had, the key would still have been on him when he died. But no key was found when he went through his pockets.
I see. Oh, we seem to be back where we started, don't we?
Not quite. You said that you saw this man at Waterloo Station.
Yes.
Are you quite sure it wasn't Victoria?
Wait a minute, let me think. When did you lose your handbag? Wasn't the weekend we went to see Peggy? Oh, yes, it was. I remember now. It was Victoria Station. He was sitting in the same restaurant we were in.
And was that where you lost your handbag?
Yes, it was. You were with me, of course. Didn't I mention something about this? Someone I was at college with.
I don't remember.
Well, it appears that he may have had something to do with his handbag after all. The next thing to do is to get this all down on paper. I'd like both of you to make statements before the inquest. My office is only a few moments from here. Perhaps you could come now.
Excuse me.
Margaret.
Max, this is Inspector Hubbard. Inspector, this is Max Halliday. He was with me all last night.
How do you do?
Mr. Halliday, as you were with Mr. Wendish last night, perhaps you can help us here. Did you happen to notice what time it was when he left your party to use the telephone?
Well, yes, it was about 20 minutes to 11.
How did you come to notice that, sir?
Well, when Mr. Wendes got up from the table, I thought for a moment we were leaving the party, so I looked at my watch.
Thank you. You see, it was when Mrs. Wendish came in here to answer his call that she was attacked.
You mean you were phoning Margot?
Yes.
Well, I don't get it. I asked you if we were leaving. You said you were just going out to phone your boss.
Tony, now I remember what I was going to ask you. Why did you phone me last night?
Just a moment, before I lose the thread of this. At about 20 minutes to 11, you left your party to phone your boss.
Yes, I got up. I used a phone in the hotel lobby.
Now, how long were you on the phone with your boss before you called your wife?
Actually, I never did call him, you see. I couldn't remember the number, so I was phoning my wife to get it from the book.
You mean you hauled me out of bed to look up a phone number?
Yes. You see, my boss was leaving for Brussels this morning, and I needed to remind him of something. It was rather important.
Wasn't there a telephone directory in the hotel?
Yes, but he was at home, and his home number isn't listed.
So you never did call him after all?
Oh, of course not. After I heard what happened here, I forgot about it and just rushed over.
Mr. Halliday, Mr. and Mrs. Wendish are coming to my office now to make their statements. Would you mind telling me where you're staying, sir? I may want to get in touch with you.
Well, certainly. I'm staying at the Carfax Hotel.
Just write it down here, sir, will you?
I'll get my coat.
Telephone number as well. Thank you. Ever been over here before, sir?
Well, yes, about a year ago.
Inspector, there's a devil of a crowd out there. Can't you do something to send them away?
They'd come back even faster than they go, sir. I was going to suggest them to leave by the garden. Isn't there a gate at the far end?
Yes, but it might be locked. I'll just check for you.
How much does he know about you and Mrs. Wendish?
What are you talking about?
You wrote a letter to Mrs. Wendis from New York. It was found in the dead man's pocket. I didn't mention it before because I wasn't sure how much Mr. Wendis knew. Have you any idea how it got there?
No,
Where's Tony?
he's just gone in the garden.
Mrs. Wendis, when you lost your handbag, did you lose a letter as well?
No.
Margot was found in this man's pocket.
You did lose it, didn't you?
Yes.
I asked you that before, didn't I?
Well, yes, but my husband didn't know anything about it.
This man was blackmailing you, wasn't he?
No.
It's no good, Margot. Tony will have to find out about it now. It's the only thing to do. Inspector, after Mrs. Wendis lost my letter, she received these 2 notes.
Last February. How many times have you seen this man?
I've never seen this man.
Mr. Halliday, I'd like you to come with us.
Yes, of course.
Mrs. Wendis, when you come to the police station to make your statement, there may be other police officers present. I shall warn you first that anything you say will be taken down and may be used in evidence. Now, never mind what you told me so far. We'll forget all about that. From now on, just tell me exactly what you know about this man and exactly what happened last night. If you try to conceal anything at all, it may put you in a very serious position.
I wish you'd tell me what you mean by all of this.
I will. You admit that you killed this man. You say that you did it in self-defense. Unfortunately, there were no witnesses, so we've only your word to take for that.
But I heard it all, Inspector, over the telephone.
What exactly did you hear, sir?
Well, I heard a thud and...
Did you hear anything to indicate that a struggle was going on?
What I heard perfectly corresponded with what my wife told me.
So you really know the matter is what your wife told you, isn't it? You suggested he came here to burgle this flat, but there's no evidence of that. There is evidence, however, that he was blackmailing you.
Blackmail.
It's true, Tony.
You suggested he came in by those windows, yet we know that he came in by that door.
But how could he have? There's only 2 keys. Tony had his with him, and mine's in my handbag. Here.
You could have let him in.
You're not trying to actually say my wife could let this in.
At the moment, it appears to be the only way that he could have entered.
Don't you even believe I was attacked? How do you think I got these bruises on my throat?
You could have put those marks there yourself. We found a stocking outside the window. It had 2 knots tied in it. Have you any idea how it got there?
I suppose that's what he used.
We found the twin of the stocking wrapped in newspaper at the bottom of the waste paper basket. Have you any idea why your attacker would want to do that?
No.
Those stockings were yours, weren't they?
No.
We know they were. One of the heels had been darned with some silk that didn't quite match. We found the reel of that silk in your sewing box.
Tony, there was a pair of stockings in here.
I've heard of police planting evidence be sure of a conviction. I just wasn't aware they did it in this country.
His men were in here for hours last night. They could have done anything.
Yes, of course they did. They even wiped the shoes on the mat outside. Hello, Roger. Tony Wendis here. Now, look, Roger, we had a bit of a problem. A man, he broke in here and Margot was attacked.
Margot? Is she there?
No, she's all right now. The police are here. Now, listen, Roger, don't laugh, but they're actually saying that she intentionally murdered him.
I wouldn't say that if I were you.
Oh, that's a good
Yes, isn't it? Now, Roger, you could be a good fellow and meet us downtown at the Monterey Police Station.
He's a right away,
Oh, thanks, old boy. Don't worry, darling. Roger will meet us down there in just a little while.
Mr. Wendis, I should advise
Our
you.
lawyer will give us all the advice we need. Thank you.
Here's your bag, Margot.
Thank you, Max.
You are coming, sir.
What? Oh, but of course, Inspector.
Yeah. I just wondered.
you're quite a stranger, please.
I'm sorry I wasn't around before, but I wasn't sure how you felt it.
Nah, it's quite all right. It's getting rather cold. I'll just turn up the heat. Now, let's find a place for you to sit, shall we? I'm afraid I've seen hardly anyone in weeks. I'm getting quite used to it, though. I moved in here because people would stop in the street and staring at the bedroom window, and after the appeal failed, well, they started climbing through the garden gate. Can't blame them, I suppose. It's cheaper than the zoo, and it's far more topical.
Tony, I had to come in case there was anything.
I'm afraid it's over, Max. Our lawyer received this from the Home Secretary this morning.
You mustn't give up trying. It's not over yet.
I'm afraid it is. I've done all I can. I even went to see her today at the prison, but she wouldn't see me. I was rather glad. She never did like goodbyes.
Tony, I take it you'd do anything to save her life,
Of course.
even if it meant going to prison for several years.
I'd do absolutely anything.
Well, I think you can. I'm certain if you tell the police exactly the right story.
The right story?
Listen, Tony, I've been working on this for weeks in case it came to this. It may be your last chance.
Well, let's have it.
You will have to tell the police that you hired Swan to murder her.
What are you talking about?
It's all right, Tony. I've been writing this stuff for years. I know what I'm doing. Margot was convicted because no one would believe her story. Prosecution made out that she was telling one lie after the other, and the jury believed him. But what was this case based on? Only three things. My letter, her stocking, and the idea that since no key was found on Wendis, she must have let him in herself. Well, Wendis is dead, or not Wendis, Swan. Well, Swan is dead. You can tell any story you want about him. You can say that you did know him, that you met him and worked the whole thing out. Now the blackmail. Swan was suspected of blackmail for only two reasons. Because my letter was found in his pocket and because you saw him the day Margot's bag was stolen.
Well,
Now you can say that you never did meet him at Victoria. That the whole thing was an invention of yours to try and connect him with the letter.
you mean I should pretend that... Wait a second. That letter was found in his pocket.
Because you put it there.
You want me to pretend that I stole her handbag?
Sure, you could have.
But why?
Because you wanted to find out who was writing to her. When you read my letter, you were so mad you decided to teach her a lesson.
But I can't say I wrote the blackmail notes.
Why not? Who can prove you didn't?
Max, look, I know you're trying to help and all that, but really, can you imagine anyone believing any of this?
You've got to make them believe it.
But I wouldn't know what to say. You'd have to come with me, Max.
No, I can't do that. They know I write this sort of thing. If they thought you and I talked it out, they wouldn't even listen. They must have known I've been here.
Max, this is ridiculous. Why would I want anyone to murder Margot?
One of the stock motives, that she made a will.
I believe so.
Are you the main beneficiary?
Well, I suppose so.
Well, there you are.
But Max, thousands of husbands and wives, they leave each other money. They don't go around killing each other. The police wouldn't believe a word of it. They take it for exactly what it is, a husband desperately trying to save his wife.
Well, it's worth a try. You can't be hanged for planning a murder that never came off. Face it, the most you get would be a few of those years in prison.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
And you'd have saved her life. That doesn't seem too big a price.
No, that's easy for you to say, Max. Because of you, she's in the trouble she's in. Because of your letter that you lost... Because of your letter, she lost the sympathy of the court. Now, don't get me wrong, Max. There's the slightest chance of this coming off. Of course I do it. But it's got to be convincing. For instance, how could I persuaded Swan to do such a thing?
You'd have to say you offered him money.
What, money? I haven't got any.
You'd have Margot's money.
But it'll be months before I get my hands on it. And Max, people don't commit murder on credit. And we've got to think of something better than that.
All right, we will. There's an answer. We've got to find it. How much time do we have?
It's tomorrow morning. Oh, hello, Inspector. Is it about my wife?
No, sir, I'm afraid not.
What is it then?
I'm making inquiries in connection with a robbery that took place about 3 weeks ago.
Look, do we have to go over this now?
Of course, sir. I'm very conscious of your position. If I may, I'd like to say how deeply sorry I am.
All right, Inspector, yes. How may I be of assistance to you?
The cashier of a factory in Ledbury Street was attacked in his office, and 2 men made off with several £100s, mostly in pound notes.
And what's this got to do with me?
In cases like this, all police divisions are asked to keep on the lookout for anyone spending large sums of money.
I see.
I was wondering, sir, if you had sold anything recently, for cash.
Why?
My sergeant happened to be making routine inquiries the other day at the Wales garage. He mentioned that you'd settled an account there recently for just over £60.
Yes, I happen to have a rather large amount on me at the time, so I paid cash.
I see. Had you just drawn this money from your bank?
Have you been to my bank, Inspector?
As a matter of fact, I have. They wouldn't help me. Bank statements are always jealously guarded. Where'd you get it, sir?
Is that any of your business?
If it was stolen money, yes, sir. It is my business. Do you mind if I smoke?
Oh, no, go ahead. Inspector, really? Do you actually believe that I've been accepting stolen money?
Until you tell me where you got it, I shan't know what to think, shall I? You see, you may have gotten that money from someone you didn't know, and that might be the very person we're looking for. Hello? Is it yours, sir?
What is it?
Somebody's latchkey was lying on the floor just here.
Oh, I don't know. Let me check. Hold on. Ah, no, I've got mine right here.
No, it isn't yours. Well, it may be mine, then. It may have fallen out of my pocket. There's a small hole in there. Yes, it is mine. That's the trouble with those latchkeys. They all look alike. Well, now, sir, you were saying...
I don't believe I was.
Oh, yes, about that money. I'd be very grateful if you tell me where you got it. After all, £100 is quite a bit to carry around.
£100? You said 60 just a moment ago.
Did I? Well, my sergeant decided to dig a little deeper before putting in his report. He mentioned that you'd also settled a bill at your tailor's, and another for wine and spirits.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry it wasn't so much trouble. If he'd come to me, I would have told him right off. You see, I simply won a rather large amount at the dog racing track.
Over £100?
Yeah, some £100. It's been done before, you know.
I see. Why didn't you tell me this right away, sir?
Well, you see, I was rather ashamed I haven't been caught gambling when my wife is under the sentence of death.
I know how it is, sir. Helps take your mind off things. Well, that answers everything, doesn't it? I'm sorry to have disturbed you at this time.
Oh, no trouble, Inspector.
Oh, one more thing. You have a small blue attaché case.
Don't tell me you found it already.
Why, have you lost it?
Yes, I was going to report it this afternoon. I think I left it in a taxi. How did you know about my attaché case, Inspector?
The wine shop mentioned that you had it with you when you paid your bill. So my sergeant checked back with the tailor and the garage, and they both mentioned that you had it with you when you paid them as well.
Yes, I prefer to use that instead of a briefcase.
Well, these taxi men are very good at turning things in. I hope you find it.
Yes, Inspector.
Oh, Mr. Halliday.
Before you go, Inspector, I think Mr. Wendis has something to tell you.
Oh, has he?
Where'd you put it, Tony?
What's Moby Max?
When I was in here just now, I noticed a small empty case. I can't remember exactly where I found it. Got the key, Tony.
Just a moment, sir. Why did you say you left this in a taxi?
Very well. No
I
key,
thought
we'll
I
have
had.
to open it
Max,
some
have
other
you
way.
gone mad? Look, I've got the key around here someplace. Don't get so upset. Look, Inspector, I don't know what all
All
this
right,
is
Tony,
about.
I'll find out what
Taxi
you
case. Look, Max, don't be such a fool. Max!
There must be over £500 here. Where did you get it?
I can tell you why he got it. That money was to have been paid a man named Swan for murdering Mrs. Wendis in this room. As you know, there was an accident, so it wasn't necessary to pay Swan after all. He could hardly produce it without questions being asked, so he lived on it. He'd been living on it since the 28th of September.
Well, Mr. Wendis?
Just now you said you'd do anything to save Margot. What's made you change your mind?
Inspector, before you arrived, he was trying to persuade me to go to the police and tell the most fantastic story you ever heard. Apparently, I hired Swan to kill my wife for the insurance money. Isn't that right, Max? And that's not all. You remember that letter of Mr. Halliday's? Well, Swan didn't steal it. I did, and I wrote the blackmail note, and I planted the letter on the body.
And the stocking.
Oh, the stocking? That was fine. Perhaps I better say it might sound more like a confession. You see, I took my wife's stocking and substituted, that is the right word, isn't it, Max? Substituted it for the other one. You follow me, don't you, Inspector? Anything else, Max?
He told Swan he'd leave his key somewhere out here, probably on the bench. Swan let himself in, then hid behind the curtain. Then he phoned from the hotel and brought Mrs. Wendis.
Just a moment, sir. If Swan had used Wendy's key, it would have been on him when he died. Besides, how would Wendy's have gotten in when he came back in from the hotel?
She could have left it. Then he could have taken his key out of Swan's pocket before the police arrived.
But he let himself in with his own key. That much was established at the trial. Don't you remember?
Come on, Max, your move.
He could have taken his key, unlocked the door, then returned the key to the ledge before he came in.
This is all very interesting, Mr. Halliday, but it isn't getting me anywhere near to what I came here to find out.
But this is a matter of life and death. What else, man?
What matters to me is where Mr. Wendis got this money. That's all I want to know.
Well, we'll soon find out how long he's got it.
Oh, what's the matter now, Max?
Very hard, Inspector. The last check he wrote was on the 27th of September, the day before all this happened. I tell you, he's been living on it ever since. Here's his bank statement.
He hasn't withdrawn any large sums from his bank, nothing over 53 pounds.
But just look at this, nearly every week. 35 pounds, 40, 35, 45. He could have saved it up.
Of course, I've been planning this for years.
Where'd you get it?
I should run an Max. I'm warning you, you're not going to like it.
Come on.
All right, Max. You see, that night that she phoned me back, I found her kneeling beside the body. She was going through the pocket, saying he had something hers, but she couldn't find it. She was nearly hysterical. That's why I didn't have her speak to the police. I knew in the condition she was in, she would have told every lie under the sun. The next morning, she showed me that money just the way it is now on the £1 notes. She said if anything happened to her, I'd make sure that they didn't get it. Of course, after she was arrested, I took that money and brought it to the Charing Cross station, put it in a lockbox. Whenever I needed money, I would simply take it out of that one and put it in a different lockbox. You see, Max, I was well aware that if you had found out about it, she wouldn't have stood a chance. See, she was about ready to give that to Swan when she decided to kill him instead.
Do you expect anyone to believe this?
I've really no idea. What about it, Inspector?
Well, it certainly seems to fit in with the verdict at the trial.
But aren't you even going to check up on this? She's being hanged tomorrow.
This has all been out of my hands for months. There's been a trial and an appeal.
Of course, it wouldn't do you much good, would it? You'd have to admit you had arrested the wrong person.
I think you better get going, Max.
Well, but you made one mistake. What'll happen when Margaret hears about all this?
No, she'll deny it, of course.
Perhaps she'll change her will. You'll have done it all for nothing.
Suppose I told that story of his, Inspector. Would anyone have believed me?
Not a chance, sir. Before nearly every execution, someone comes forward like this. This must have been very distressing for you, coming as it did.
Yes, yes. Do you actually think they'll let him see my wife? I don't want her to get so upset.
Have a word with your lawyer. He might be able to prevent it. Unless you get that money into the bank before somebody pinches it.
Yes, thank you. I believe I will.
Oh, one more thing. There are some things belonging to Mrs. Wendis at the police station.
Things? What sort of things?
Just some books and a handbag, I believe. They'd like you to come and collect them sometime.
Oh, you mean after tomorrow?
Yes, or today if you like. Just ask the desk sergeant. He knows all about it.
Yeah, thank you, Inspector. I will.
Well, goodbye, Mr. Wendis. I don't suppose we shall meet again.
No, goodbye, Inspector.
Mandeville, please.
Why a minute, please?
This is Chief Inspector Hubbard. Get me Sergeant O'Brien, quick.
My man?
O'Brien, Hubbard here. Look, I've got back in again. Start the ball rolling.
Yes, sir.
the big idea? What's going on here?
Where's his bank statement?
Never mind about that. You've got to get out of here, quick.
Have you got it?
Not so loud.
But don't you see?
Shut up. If you want to save Mrs. Wenders, just keep quiet and let me handle this.
You.
You nearly ditched us then. I ought to have you locked up.
What is all this?
And you talk about flat-footed policemen. May the saints preserve us from the gifted amateur. You'd better prepare yourself for a surprise, Mr. Halliday.
Hello, Max. Where's Tony?
He's gone out.
Will he be back soon?
We don't know. Was that you who rang just now?
Yes, why didn't you let me in?
You have a key. Why didn't you use it?
I did, but it didn't fit the lock.
And you know why, don't you?
No, has the lock been changed?
May I see your handbag? You knew this wasn't your key, didn't you?
No.
Your husband had told us all about this, you know. You can tell me all about it now.
Why am I'm afraid I don't understand.
No, I don't suppose you do. Come and sit down, Mrs. Wenders.
What's going on here?
Thompson,
Sir.
take this handbag to the police station.
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute, you clerk. You can't go walking down the street like that. Here, put it in this.
Margot, what is this? Why are you here?
I don't know. The warden came to see me about an hour ago. He just said I was to be taken home. 2 detectives drove me here, but they parked around the corner. Then that policeman came up and told me I was free to go. My key wouldn't fit the lock. When I came out, the same policeman was there and he brought me around by the garden. Where's Tony? He was supposed to come visit me, but they said he couldn't come. Has something happened to him?
No, nothing. Inspector, do you think you can tell us what you're up to?
Mrs. Wenders, what I've got to tell you might come as quite a shock.
Yes?
We strongly suspect that your husband had planned to murder you.
It's true, Margot. He arranged for Swan to come here that night and kill you.
How long have you known about this?
Did you suspect it yourself?
No, never. Yeah, Max, what's the matter with me? I don't seem able to feel anything. Shouldn't I break down or something?
Delayed reaction. A couple of days you're going to have one hell of a breakdown. When did you find out?
The first clue came quite by accident. We discovered that your husband had been spending large numbers of pound notes all over the place. It ran to over 300 pounds, and it appeared to have started at about the time that you were arrested. Now, I had to find out where he got this money and how. Then I remembered that after you were arrested, we'd searched this flat, and I'd seen his bank statement in that desk. So, yesterday afternoon, I went to the prison and asked to see your handbag. And while I was doing this, I managed to lift your latchkey. Highly irregular, of course, but my blood was up. And then I came over here to look at the bank statement. I never saw it because I never got through that door. You see, the key which I had lifted from your handbag didn't fit the lock. Not a sound. Williams,
Sir,
who was it?
Wenders, sir.
Which way did he go?
Along towards police station, sir.
Right. Maidavale Police.
Maidavale, Brian.
O'Brien Hubbard. Look, he's found out about his raincoat. He just came back and couldn't get in. Has Thompson arrived with that handbag?
Yes, sir.
Good. Now give Wenders those books and the handbag and make sure he sees the key. You better make him check the contents and sign for it. And if he wants to know about his raincoat, Tell him I've gone to Glasgow.
Right, sir.
Any questions?
None?
Right. Give me a call when he leaves the station.
Yes, sir.
Well, Mr. Halliday, have you got it?
I don't think so. Where is Mrs. Wendus's key?
It took me just half an hour to find it,
If it was there, why didn't he use it just now?
because he doesn't realize it's there. He still thinks it's in his wife's handbag. You see, you were very nearly right. He told Swan that he would leave his key under the stair carpet and to return it there when he left. But as Swan was killed, he naturally assumed it would be in one of his pockets. That was a little mistake. Because Swan had done exactly as you suggested, Mr. Halliday. He'd removed the key, unlocked the door, and returned it to his place before he came in.
And it's been there ever since. Then the key that Wendus took out of Swan's pocket and returned to her handbag was
Swan's own latchkey. Mind you, even I did guess that at once. I thought that Wendus must have changed the lock. But it had always surprised me that no key was ever found on the body. After all, most men carry a latchkey about with them. Then I had a brainwave. I took the key which I had lifted from your handbag to Mrs. Van Dorn's and unlocked the door of her apartment. Then I borrowed her telephone and called Scotland Yard.
Why did you bring me here?
Because you were the only other person who could have known that the key was still outside. I had to find out if you knew it was there.
And if I had known?
Well, you didn't.
Oh, Max,
Yes, darling.
I think I'm going to have that breakdown right now.
O'Brien?
Yes, sir. When just left the state.
Right. Williams,
Sir.
he's left the station. Give me a signal if he comes this way.
Right, sir.
What happens now?
Sooner or later he'll come back here. As I've pinched his latchkey, he'll try the one in the handbag. When that one doesn't work, he'll realize his mistake, put two and two together, and look under the stair carpet.
But suppose he doesn't do that. All this is pure guesswork. We can't prove a thing.
That's perfectly true. But once he opens that door, we shall know everything.
What'll you do then?
I'm to phone Scotland Yard. They're waiting for my call now.
And Mrs. Wendus?
We'll have nothing else to fear.
Okay, Mark?
Right, coming.
Let's go around by the garden and see the broken latch.
Be careful.
He's coming back.
He's remembered.